Greetings today. It's good to be with you for our daily encouragement. Today we are finishing up Psalm 23, which I'm sure is a little bittersweet for us because we love this psalm, and I've heard from some of you who've enjoyed us spending time walking through Psalm 23. But we'll come up with something great. We'll be talking about Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday over the next 2 days. So I invite you to continue this series with us. So we have just here in Psalm 23, just this incredible image here on the back half of the chapter, and what we find is that David speaks of God as a gracious host, and this is the image that he uses here in the last few verses. And we've looked at what David understands that to mean. He says that God is a gracious host, prepares a table before me, and protects me even from my enemies. I can sit at a table with my enemy, and yet I'm under my gracious host's protection. He anoints my head with oil. It's a blessing that he gives to me, and a sign of his care. He also pours so much abundance into my cup that it runs over. And this is an image for the grace of God in our life. And in light of this, and in light of his host, David says, surely the goodness and the mercy of God will follow me all the days of my life. Surely my cup will never run out. I'll have enough for all the days of my life. And he ends this psalm in the only way that you really can. He points to that care that is sustained not only throughout his life, but throughout eternity. He says, and surely I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Surely I'll live in the presence of God forever. And so David recognizes the assurance of the fact that God's care is not just for this lifetime, but extends far beyond it. To me, I can't help but associate this with John chapter 14, where Jesus tells the disciples, really just before he's about to be crucified, he tells them that he's going away, but he's going away to create a place for them. For my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. Jesus is going to make a place to assure that there's a place for you and for me. I love this passage in thinking about the presence of God, because I think for many of us, we've experienced in some way the presence of God, and we know just how compelling that is. About a month or two ago, well, it's been over a month ago, maybe a couple months ago, we were having a time where we met our disciple group leaders, and we were having some time of planning our session for the next few weeks. And then we spent some time in prayer and a little bit of worship. And so we had this kind of block of time we just kind of carved off for that. And we began, just kind of sharing prayer back and forth and singing a little bit here and there. And it was one of those compelling just times that, you just felt the presence of God kind of invade that space, and everyone could sense something sacred happening there in that moment. And we knew it was kind of lingering, and it was kind of getting that time where, our kids needed to go home. And so, I closed in prayer. And I remember when I opened my eyes and to see everybody, there were several people who didn't get up. And one of those was Raquel Westbrook. In fact, she sat there for a while and she said, I just don't want to leave this place. After experiencing the presence of God in such a powerful way, like I want to sit here in this. I want to sit in the presence of God and just enjoy being his. And I think of that, and I think that's what David is capturing here. Surely I will live in the presence of the Lord forever. Like, that's going to be our story for eternity. That compelling sense of belonging, of sensing the power and the beauty of God, like that's going to be our story. David says, man, that's going to be my life forever, right? Like, I'm going to be in that kind of presence forever. And we look ahead and say, well, Jesus has made a place to ensure for us that that's going to be our story. And so what an encouragement for you and for me today, that this is our story. that we'll live in the presence of God and that we will belong in Him. And so I hope that is an encouragement to you today. So let's close in a word of prayer. Look forward to being with you tomorrow. Let's bow together. God, we are grateful for the way in which we experience your presence here and now, and yet we know it's just a small taste of what is to come. We know that, God, you desire to be with us far more than we even desire to be with you. We're grateful that you meet us, and we just pray, Father, that you would help us to experience that presence in the midst of what many, I imagine, feel is a sense of aloneness and isolation. So please, God, may your presence overwhelm that, and may we know that we belong to you both now and forever. Amen. All right, well, thank you for joining us today.